Hello everyone, JD here. This presentation is about concept diagrams, and I would like to spend the next several minutes explaining to you how I'd like you to approach the assignment. You'll notice that I've chosen the Declaration of Independence. That's a very popular document that many people have heard of, and some people have actually read in its entirety. I would encourage you to if you haven't. Now, I put it at the center of the concept diagram because that's really the focus. And so when you think about it, you're going to be doing concept diagrams for the chapters from the assigned text. If there's a chapter about the legislature, okay, well then Nevada legislature is going to be at the center of your diagram or wherever it is you like to place it in your diagram, because I'm going to give you creative control. I just want to make sure that we have the information in there and you pay attention to the rubric, because content and organization are the two main components of the rubric. In addition, we also have following directions. Well, okay, here's the deal. Declaration of Independence is in the center, and you'll notice going out from the center, we've got 5 sections. Section 1, Preamble. Section 2, Natural Rights. Section 3, List of Grievances. Section 4, Resolution. Section 5, Signatures. I've broken down the document into these 5 different parts. And you'll also note that I have uploaded to Canvas the actual copy of the Declaration of Independence that I read, highlighted, and then wrote notes myself in the margin. So you're more than welcome to look at that to see how I approach materials for class. Because whenever I'm reading, I always like to do this, highlight and mark them up with notes, because it helps me, because those pieces of information, like when you write notes, that's like a cue to yourself to go back to a specific section of a chapter or a specific document, in this particular case with this example, so that you know where you can extract information from to put in the concept diagram. It's a really good habit to develop, right? So we've got these 5 sections, and then you have section 3, List of Grievances. You'll notice going out of the arrow, it says primary target, King George III, secondary target, Parliament. I put that information in there because I want to explain what the arrow is all about. So what is a grievance? A grievance is a complaint. These are the complaints that the colonists had against the British government, specifically King George III, and then secondary, is Parliament. And then you also note under List of Grievances, it says specific examples. Now, if you look at the document itself, the Declaration of Independence, there are far more grievances there than the 6 that I listed. You can't put every grievance. You can't put every piece of information from a chapter in a concept diagram because there's just too much. So you've got to develop the skill of extraction. And that means you got to figure out, okay, what's the most useful? And what then will I plug into the concept diagram itself? So I picked 6. You'll notice that on that list, dissolve representative houses repeatedly. That's an item. Cutting off our trade. And then, of course, the most popular one everyone's ever heard of is imposing taxes without our consent. Right? So those are the 6 that I chose. And I'm going to encourage you to develop this skill. Right? So that's really important to mention here. You'll also note, if you look at this particular concept diagram, this model I've created, it goes in a clockwise manner. Section 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I've also color-coded. We've got green, blue, orange, yellow, and gray. Now, I'm not saying that your concept diagram that you create for each of the respective chapters that you read needs to use rectangles and these specific colors and needs to be in this clockwise arrangement. It doesn't have to be like that. I'm going to give you creative control and say, please, by all means, create a concept diagram that makes sense to you. But please understand that I have to be able to grasp what content you've extracted to include here. And if I don't understand what it is you've included, then chances are I'm going to provide feedback where I indicate, okay, you need to elaborate here, or I need to have some examples there. And you'll notice with each of these sections, I've also have it's either a component or an example, because it's got to illustrate it. And this is what I like to say to people. It's really important for everyone to understand that you can't simply just plug in headings from chapters, because a heading isn't enough. A heading doesn't include an explanation. Headings are useful for the reader. It's also useful in the concept diagram. But a heading alone isn't enough, because you've got to have the information that follows it, that illustrates what that heading is about or that section is about. And really a heading is just to mark each section. And then the question is, what is a section composed of? So In section 3, list of grievances, I have the 6 examples. Or in section 1, the preamble, I've got these 2 components, right? The components in section 1, preamble, and preamble is just, it's a term for like an introduction. Dissolve the political bands that have connected them with another. And then secondly, causes which impel them to the separation. The colonists were angry enough to officially divorce themselves from the mother country, in this case, Great Britain. So they're going to have this whole explanation. The explanation is the Declaration itself, and it's broken down into these different parts. And so you can break down chapters, you can break down documents, you can break down whatever you're reading because it helps you to do this. It's like taking chunks of information or pieces of information and putting them in a specific place, but it's got to be arranged in a way that makes sense. And when you get done with your concept diagram, or at least a draft of it, you should be asking yourself, could I use this work to study for an exam? By work, I mean this concept diagram. Could it be used by someone to study for an exam? If the answer is yes, chances are it's got a lot of information in it. If the answer is no, it probably doesn't have nearly as much as it needs. And so I need you to be thinking about that when you prepare these, because it's really, really important for people to be learning as much from the chapter as possible, as much as possible. Now, like I said, I'm going to give you creative control, but I've got to be able to understand that you understand what it is you've extracted. You also want to be thinking in terms of, when you provide like examples, are you being too abrupt or are you being thorough? A thorough example that you extract to illustrate whatever, item it is that you've put in your concept diagram. There's going to be enough information for a reader and to take a look at it and be like, okay, well, I understand what you're getting at and understand what this is about. And think of it like this too. I like to put it this way. Imagine someone has never read the Declaration of Independence or has never read the chapter that you're going to read from your book to create these concept diagrams. Could they look at your concept diagram and then walk away with an understanding of what the chapter is about? And really, when you think about it, this exercise, this task, is very much a visual outline. And then with this visual outline, we're going to have these different parts, but we're also going to get a sense as to how they're connected to one another. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it. If you have any questions, you're always more than welcome to email me, to call me, to stop by during office hours, or make an appointment at another time. If the office hours don't match your schedule, we can find some other time in there to meet, whether it be through or in person or through Zoom. So please, please, please make sure you get in touch. I want to thank you for enrolling in the class and thank you for watching this video. I look forward to reading your work to see what it is that you extract from the chapters that you're going to be reading in the course. Peace.